How's it going, everyone? How's it going? How's it going? Okay, cool. How's everybody doing today? Ask me anything about art. Today's little last minute session is me just jumping on. I've got some art that I'm going to be varnishing, some paintings that I'll be varnishing as I'm stopping in to say hello. You guys can also say hello to me. And if you have any questions about anything regarding art, please ask it. Let's see if my comments section is working okay. Tina says, I've already asked about my transparent mixing white. Yeah, let me know how that works, Tina. Once you use it, let me know how that works. Like I said, I have some. I have some that I occasionally use. But anyway, yeah, let me know how that works for you. Perhaps we'll do a little tutorial one day on how to use that stuff. Anyway, I'm just sitting here varnishing. Am I even on the screen? Man, aren't I? Okay, hang on a second. Let me adjust this little guy a little bit. Okay, bring this a little closer. So I've got this little bee painting that we made in the membership group a few months ago. What is it? 2-3 months ago? About 2-3 or so months ago. This little bee painting that I haven't had a chance to varnish. So jumping on here, I'm just going to apply a couple of coats of clear varnish, and I'm using this big brush. It's really neat, big. This is about a 3-inch flat brush that helps me cover areas really quickly. I've got some varnish from Liquitex. I use this stuff right here for varnishing. If any of you guys have ever seen this stuff, oh, you know, let me move this. Feels like, no, we'll leave that. We'll leave that right there. Cool. I was going to remove the graphic from the screen, but I kind of like it. It says, ask me anything about art. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Especially if you're newer to art. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. What's happening, Angie? No. No, we're not painting today. I'm just jumping on to say hello as I'm varnishing some pieces. So here's just going back over the same area that I just applied. I've got some really shiny, glossy acrylic paint. And so this varnish, when you varnish your paintings, it actually does a couple of things. One, it protects the painting. It keeps dust and things like that and flies. I got this pesky flies flying around in here. Anyway, it keeps dust away from the actual surface of your painting, and sunlight. Light and dust, pollutants in the air can really cause problems to painting. So once they've dried, you want to apply one. Not every artist applies varnish to their pieces, but it is a good idea to do so. If you want to preserve your paintings for a really long time, you want to add varnish to them. So what I like to do is I use this stuff that you brush on, because you can also get stuff that you spray on. I find I have a little bit of a hard time controlling the spray stuff, so I buy this stuff that you can brush on just like paint. And so you can do it in layers. The more layers you apply, it gets a little bit thicker, offers a little bit more protection. But mainly the second and third coats, if you're going to be doing more than one coat, it just makes sure that you have enough coverage on your painting. Let's see. Angie says, what is the difference between matte, gesso, and glossy? So gesso is actually not varnish. Gesso is a medium that is used to apply to a canvas. You can apply to a canvas to get it ready to paint. So some canvases that you buy, usually it's canvas material that needs to be stretched that doesn't come prepared with gesso. Any canvas that you're going to be painting on, you want it to be prepped beforehand. Most of the stuff that's bought at the art stores so the ones that you buy that are already packaged, those are usually already prepped. So you don't have to worry about those. So like if you go to Michael's, to Hobby Lobby, when you buy those packs of the canvases, they sometimes come in like 5 packs, or you can buy them in singles too. But those that come prepackaged are already prepped with gesso, and they'll usually say it somewhere on the package. So yeah, but it is, so gesso is different. Gesso doesn't have anything to do with varnish. Varnish comes in matte, it comes in glossy, it comes in semi-gloss. The stuff that I'm using here is glossy. So this Liquitex one says high gloss varnish. And what happens is there's different types of varnish, because each type creates a different feel to your painting. So if you got something really shiny and pretty, like this bee painting, perhaps you'd be picking a glossy varnish. When you have something a little bit more muted, like this winter painting that we did a few months ago, some people might choose a matte finish or a semi-gloss. I'm going to go ahead. I like glossy varnish in general because it really brings out the richness of colors. Right now, this is all looking a little bit on the dull side, dull-ish. Let me see. Let me back the camera up a bit now so you get full coverage of the image. But essentially, when I apply the glossy varnish, it brings out the really rich colors of the painting. But yeah, so you've got glossy, you've got semi, you've got matte, and then you've got other types. There are some that have almost like a shimmer. Also, I've seen some that have a shimmer built in, so it's almost like little tiny pieces of iridescence, maybe like finely ground glitter that's floating around in the varnish, and when you apply it, it creates that really pretty sheen in your paintings. So there's all sorts of different varnish types out there. But good question, Angie. Thank you so much. But again, you're protecting your paintings. You're making sure that your paintings last a really long time. And then the other thing to consider when you do varnish a painting, you want to, every few years, you're going to need to revarnish. You're going to remove the old varnish and add some new varnish. So anyway, that's what I'm doing right here. I'm protecting these pieces after I'm going to be storing these. And so I want to protect them first. But anyway, so just going through this, what I do is I put the varnish in a little plate like this. This is I don't know if you guys can see it. So SpongeBob plate. Just using that to hold my varnish, and then I like to use a large, smooth brush like this one, soft, that doesn't leave a lot of bristle tracks, right? So as I brush this across, because I'm using a big brush, I can quickly go through the entire painting before the varnish starts to dry. You want to kind of avoid the varnish. You want to keep it from getting tacky on you. So if you take too long, so if I was using a really small brush, the chances are higher that the painting or the varnish would become tacky as I apply the varnish. So use a big brush, you don't have to worry about that as much. But definitely, as soon as I apply this, now of course it's not dry yet, but I see the difference right away in the sheen, the prettiness, the colors become a lot more vibrant, and they pop quite a bit more. What else, guys? What else? I see a few people on here. Don't be shy. Ask your question in the comments if you have one. If not, that's okay. You can also just say hello to me. For those of you that may not know, next weekend, not this weekend, the following weekend, we've got a live painting session. Whoops, I want to start at the top first. Normally I put my canvases laying down on the table. I don't varnish them on a canvas like this or on an easel. I usually lay them flat on the table. But for the purposes of the video, I am doing it on an easel. Just makes it a little easier to film, to record. But anyway, next Saturday and Sunday, what is that, the 29th and the 30th, we are having a 2-day live session here on the Painting with Jesse page, where we're going to be painting a really cool Aurora Borealis camping scene. So for those of you that have been waiting to paint with me again, I know we painted about a week or so ago. For those of you that have been wanting to paint again and are kind of raring to go, or you're a beginner or what have you, make sure you join me for that. It's a free live session here on the Painting with Jesse page. Anyway, before I go to the next coat, I want to make sure that this one dries. So I'm going to switch back over to my bee painting, do a second coat on that. It's plenty hot here in my studio, so my studio's in my garage, and right now, even though I've got this big fan, which the fan also helps dry the piece, but the heat combined with the fan dries this up really quickly. So this is ready for the next coat. I notice you can't see my signature that well. But anyway, here we go. So again, I like to start from top to bottom. This big old brush makes it easy. And sometimes I'll change directions. Instead of going side to side, I will flip it. So first coat will go side to side, and then the second coat will go vertical. It just depends. But this really adds a pretty gloss to the painting. And it brings out the vibrancy of the colors, the richness. So if you've never varnished before, I definitely recommend it because it can enhance your paintings, but it also protects them for years and years to come. Let's see. Great question, Angie. Angie says, what's been the hardest to teach since you started? Do you mean like to teach a particular painting that's been hard to teach, or a particular concept? Like maybe making clouds, or could you kind of clarify, Angie? There's lots of stuff that are a little difficult to teach, especially online. In person is a little different because you're able to be right next to the person and even help them with their mixture. You can see what they're mixing, how they're applying the paint. Online, the harder thing is that I can't see what you're making. So if you have a question about something, right? So let's say we're painting along with a piece and somebody says, hey, Jesse, my color looks really muddy, or my color is this, or my color is that. Or my painting is not looking like anything like yours, that kind of thing. It's hard for me to tell what it is that you've got, right? It's hard for me to coach you because I'm not right there. But as far as, let's see, both. Okay, both. A theme that's been difficult to teach, or concept. Wow, that's a really good question. I think probably inside of my membership, and I'm trying to think of an instance, but there have been a couple of concepts that I'll be teaching in a particular painting where when I'm done, I realize that I didn't explain it well enough. And I'll realize that because I'll see common issues with the pictures of the paintings that people are sharing. So in our group, when painters are done with their pieces, a lot of them like to share them right on the page, and we all get to kind of share and talk about each other's paintings and things like that. But what I'll see, especially if the people are struggling, I'll see commonalities, and I'll go, the reason why they're struggling, and there's a common theme with what they're struggling with, is because I didn't explain it well enough. So when I'm trying to think of examples, but there's been at least a couple of times that happened, and then I went back and redid that particular part of the painting, or re-explained it in another video where I broke things down and slowed down. But things that I find difficult kind of in a general sense, I to be honest with you, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. But themes that are just kind of difficult to learn. Water's a tough one. Water is a difficult one for lots of people. Trees, skinny lines, those are really tough for people to kind of pick up on. And of course, all of that is about practice, but also having the right tools, the right brushes, the right paint, that kind of thing will help, or the right mixture of paint and water. Those are all things that help in creating those things, those elements, whether it's water, whether it's clouds, whether it's skinny lines or trees. But the hard part is when is when I can't see what it is that you've got. So somebody says to me, hey, Jesse, my trees are turning out really fat. I can't make my trees as skinny as I'd like to. I can't see what you're doing, so it's hard for me to coach you on it. But usually the issues are kind of similar. You're using a really big brush, you're using the brush at an odd angle, or your mixture of paint isn't correct. So you've got these things that you've got to refine first. Pick the right brush, right ratio of water to paint, and then your brush stroke. Those are all things that have to kind of come into play. So yeah, that's where the tough part comes in, trying to teach art online, right? On a live stream, like we typically have here on the Painting with Jesse page. Live streams, again, I can't see. Now, if it was a Zoom session, I've done a few Zoom sessions in the past where I can see, you can show me, and then it gives me a better idea. But anyhow, great questions. Let's see. What else do we got? What else do we got? Oh, I think Angie, you asked about doing this one. Yeah, this one was in the private group. So yeah, this is something I think eventually I might make this available on a video outside of the membership group. This was a really fun and popular piece to make. So maybe that B one will find its way outside of the membership group at some point. Anyway, this is really glossy now. And once again, this is dried really quickly, so I can go ahead and do a second layer of paint. What else do you guys have? Anybody else have any questions for me? So I've got, in between steps, I've got this water cup that I leave my varnish brush, the brush that I've been using for the varnish, I let it sit in there. We don't want that varnish to dry on the brush because that could, of course, damage the brush. And we don't want that. And we want to preserve these nice brushes for a long time. This is just a regular brush. I got this one at Blick. I think I ordered this one online. Like I said, it's a 3-inch brush. Real nice. In this case, I'm going to go up and down. I see a lot of line work that goes side to side with this piece. So I'm going to go ahead and run it across, but using up and down motion. So I have painted on wood. Painting on wood is really, I kind of, in some ways, like it better than painting on canvas. If you get wood, like a wood canvas, let's say, a wood surface that is ready for painting, it is the smoothness of it is pretty cool to work with. It's different elements, slightly different than canvas. Canvas has what you call tooth, where it kind of grabs your brush, grabs the paint, and that creates a slightly different end result with your brush strokes. Every brush stroke is a little different when you're applying it to canvas than when you're applying to a smooth surface like wood. The wood does have a tiny bit of tooth, but not anything like canvas does. So you can create some really neat stuff on wood that you can't as easily on canvas. There's advantages to both. I do like them both. I typically paint on canvas, but wood is a pretty cool option to use. So I would definitely, if you haven't, I would definitely recommend trying wood because it is a really cool experience. So it depends. You could definitely sand it if it's kind of rough. So what I will often do is find those pieces of wood from, sometimes you'll see them at the 99-cent stores, like the Dollar Tree, I think sometimes carries those. When you first start off, you want to go with, cheap and easy so that in case you don't like it, you don't spend too much time on it. Well, with some things, you want to go cheap and easy. You don't want to go cheap and easy on other things like brushes and paint, because brushes and paint, I'm not saying you have to go and buy super expensive stuff, but I do recommend that you get decent quality brushes and paint because those will enhance your experience and your end results quite a bit. So, but something like a smooth piece of wood that you can buy at a 99 cent store, a discount store, typically those are just ready to be painted on. You can gesso those. You can apply a layer of paint first before you paint on it. But I have found that you can paint right directly on it and you're good to go. Now, if you're buying a raw piece of wood or you find a raw piece of wood, definitely you want to sand it and get it real nice and smooth, unless you want to work with a rough surface. But generally speaking, you're going to want to sand it, and then understand that some wood is more absorbent than others. So your first layer or two are going to get sucked into the wood. I would wait till that dries, and then you can paint on top of it, and it's much easier for that paint to become vibrant on top of that. So your dad so he paints on wood. Your dad paints, Angie, is that right? Let's see. My dad uses sandpaper, polish, sealer. So all those things. Polish, I mean, if you're using acrylic paint, you don't need to polish anything. Sealer, just like acrylic paint, varnish. Definitely. I always recommend varnish, but not every artist uses it. Not every artist. I've heard some artists, they've been painting a long time, they don't. They're like, no, I don't need to varnish my piece. They don't care to. They don't like what varnish does to their paintings. They protect them other ways, like sealing them in art bags and things like that. But if you're going to display your art, varnishing is a good idea, because it does, especially if you're going to be displaying your art for a really long time, like on your walls in your house, right? Direct sunlight can wash out the colors in whether it's acrylic or oil. I don't know about watercolor. I think watercolor is pretty much the same thing. The pigments get washed out over time. Sunlight can damage that. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a good idea to varnish your pieces, unless you're planning on storing them for a long time, in which case, as long as you're storing them properly, you're fine. Could we see some paintings on wood sometime in upcoming classes? Yeah, we could do that. I think that'd be something fun to do at some point, maybe next year. I think that'll be something to venture into. But yeah, I think so. That would be a fun thing to do. So anyway, there is my second layer of varnish on this, and this has got really shiny. And all those colors in the piece have gotten really, really pretty and just really rich tones. You can see a lot of the rich colors underneath, like in the water and things like that. So I'm going to do the third layer here on my, on my bee painting. My music turned off. What the heck? I had a little music playing in the background. Let's get that back up. Using music, non-copyright music from the Facebook, SoundCloud, what do they call it? Sound something. I can't remember what Facebook calls it. But anyway, it's music that Facebook allows you to use in your live streams. If I use well-known music, I get a copyright violation and they shut off my video. So we're not going to do that. Anyway, about to do my third layer of varnish on here. What else, everybody? Again, don't be shy. If you got some questions about art in general, let me know. More than happy to answer your questions. Okay, in this case, I'm going to go, let's see, yeah. So in this case, I'm going to go up and down. This is my third layer of paint, of varnish. We're going to go up and down all the way across. So again, because it's especially warm today and I've got a fan hitting both me and the painting, we want to go across and varnish this quickly. If we wait too long, the varnish dries very quickly, and then we're dealing with tacky varnish, and that's more likely to leave streaks. And we don't want to do that. We want a nice, smooth varnish finish. One thing I didn't do to this one is, I did it on the first layer, not in the third layer, second layer. So I'm going to flip this. And I'm going to do the bottom edge. Oh, I should have waited. I should have waited. I should have waited on that step. The reason for that is that now I've got a high chance of my canvas sticking to the easel. Whoops, that's okay. It's not anything crazy. I can undo that if that happens. What else do we got? Great question, Tina. What do you use to clean and preserve brushes? So generally on a daily basis, after I'm done painting, just a little bit of dish soap is all I use. Dish soap and water to clean up the brushes. So for example, let's say I clean this brush up, right? Soap and water, clean it up, rinse it out real nicely. Then I reshape the bristles and then leave it to dry. Not like this with the weight of the brush, of the handle pushing down on the bristles. That'll bend the bristles over time. But either usually laying flat on a table like this where the bristles aren't touching anything. When I'm looking to recondition my brushes, I use a stuff called brush reconditioner and cleaner from a company called Masters and Son or Master Son. I can't remember. Masters is what it is. Anyway, it's this kind of a thick, waxy stuff. It looks waxy, but you go through and clean it. On average, just soap and water. Maybe once every few months when my brushes start getting beat up, my good brushes, I'll go through and recondition them with a brush conditioner. That really helps preserve them, putting them back into shape. And definitely that does wonders to brushes, keeps them. Oops, I got some drips forming over here. I want to take care of those before they get too dry. There we go. Just had some drips coming down from the top. We don't want that. Those will dry like that. And you can go in there and sand them to remove them, but then the varnish won't be as glossy. You don't want to mess with that. So you want to clean those up when you see them. All right. Beautiful. One last layer on my other painting, and that will call it. That will be the end of it. 3 layers on each. That's about as much as I like to do. I'm actually going to give this one away. I've got 2 of these now. This is the one that we did in the group. So it's not the original one, in other words. And I'm going to give that one away. So I want to make sure it's really nice and varnished. Yeah, that's good stuff, Tina. That's good stuff. Good stuff. It's the only stuff I've ever used to condition. I'm sure there's other brands out there, and so other people may, have other brands that they use, but Masters is the brand that I use. Do you use some paint brushes for wood and canvas? How do you protect brushes after washing the paint out? So that's pretty much it, Angie. You want to make sure that when you wash that paint out, you want to do it before the paint dries on the brushes. So you wash the paint out and then you just set them out to dry. You want to reshape the bristles first, right? And then lay them out to dry. When they're done, whenever you put them away, you want the brushes, if you're going to lay them down, you can on their handle, right, upside down, so the bristles are pointing up. Brushes, I was referring to on replacement. Let me see. On average, you have to use new ones. How often do you have to use new ones? Oh, wow. It really depends. So for myself, I'm painting a lot. I'm painting, I don't know how many paintings a week I do, but I do, let's say on average, I'm painting 3, 4, 5 paintings a week. That's probably an easy average. Maybe I think it's higher than that, but let's say around that. Probably, I like the feel of new brushes. Even if you recondition them, they don't feel as good as when you first get them. So I'll use them for as long as I can, right? And that's usually about 6 months or so. Then I go ahead and replace them. Even if the originals are still pretty good, I'll keep those as backup, but I like the feel of new brushes and they work just a little bit better. What brand paints are your favorite? I have Apple Barrel, Crafter Closet, and some Masters Touch, but Masters is more expensive. Yeah, Masters Touch is more expensive. To be honest, even though Masters Touch for me is okay, I I tend to, what I do with Master's Touch, I actually tend to mix that when I use it. I'll mix it with like a craft paint. So craft paint like Anita's craft paint. They sell that at Hobby Lobby. That's a pretty good craft paint. So I'll mix those two together. Both those paints are available at Hobby Lobby. So I'll mix the two, creating kind of an in-between. But the craft paint, the Anita's craft paint has a lot of flow to it, whereas the Master's Touch tends to be thicker. But I create kind of a nice flow in between by mixing those. And it's kind of a happy medium. I actually like using the Master's Touch better when I mix it with the craft paint. But as far as my favorites, Liquitex Basics is a really good brand, especially if you're kind of more of a beginner painter, because you get a really good balance of money, of value for what you pay for. So they're on the cheaper end, but they're a really good value paint. If you're going to go to a higher price point in paint, I really like the Golden paints, Golden Artists paint. I don't use those much during my lives. I actually don't know that I've ever used them on a live, but when I paint commission pieces, especially something that I'm selling, which is why it's called commission, as opposed to a gift, in other words. But when I'm painting commission pieces that I'm being paid for, I like to use the Golden paints. Those have really pretty, rich color. They got a nice flow for being full-bodied paints. They have a really nice flow. But yeah, those are my favorites. What else, everybody? What else? I don't think I missed anybody. Any other questions? Let me know in the comments. More than happy to answer your painting questions. Ask me anything about paint. Anybody else? But anyhow, definitely, if you don't use varnish for your paintings and you're displaying your paintings, you definitely want to consider it. Some people like to protect their paintings by putting them inside of like a frame with glass, a glass cover, right? And that does a really good job also. But if you're going to be displaying them without glass, then definitely varnish is a good way to go. How do you like your apple barrel paints, Angie? I've used those before. They're pretty good. I don't use them often, but they are pretty good. Just checking out the feed on the Facebook page, making sure that I'm still on there. All right, cool. And I didn't miss anybody's comments. But anyway, everyone, so in a nutshell, okay, let's see. I like them. They are cheapest. I get them at Walmart. That's right. I think that's the only place where I've seen them. I think that might be their brand paint or something like that, if I'm not mistaken, because that's where I picked it up. But yeah, it's good. Craft paint, especially as a beginner, craft paint is good. As you know, craft paint, doesn't have the richness or the steadfastness. There's all kinds of different reasons why craft paint is on the cheaper side, but there are brands out there that are pretty good. Yeah, oil paints, that's what I started with. I love oil paints. I love painting with oil. It's what I first started painting with back over 15 years or so ago. And they're creamier. They're more vibrant in color, I think. They're maybe not more vibrant. They tend to be richer in color. But the really long drying times, they tend to smell a little strange for some people. What else? Basically, the long drying time, because they're also oil-based, they can get really messy. You can get that stuff all over the place before you realize it. But I do like oil painting. I probably prefer it over acrylic paint. It's what I first started painting with, as I mentioned. And when I first started selling paintings, I was doing commissions of portraits. And portrait paintings in oil are really amazing. So definitely, something that if you haven't done before, I do recommend it. But it does there's more prep time, there's more involved. They tend to be more expensive also over acrylics. But yeah, a really, really nice medium to work with. There's also some advantages to oil paintings. The long drying times of oil is a little more forgiving. You can paint something, if you don't like it, you remove it very quickly and then redo it, because you can, it takes days and days to dry, sometimes weeks. It depends on the climate and the type of oil paints that you're using. But acrylic paint tends to, because it dries so much more quickly, you have to work a little faster. Okay. Any more drawing classes coming up? There will be some. Are you talking about pure drawing classes? Or are you talking about drawing classes where we also paint over that? So there will be more, most definitely coming up. The best brands of brushes. There are so many out there, Martha. Great question. So many brushes out there that are really good. But one brand that I really enjoy is the Princeton brand. Princeton. Those are really, really good brushes. If I was going to recommend a pair of brushes, that there are some that can be really expensive, but they have some kind of different levels of quality and so price points. But every Princeton brush that I've ever worked with, whether it's from their most basic package to their most expensive, are really good brushes. So I'm not saying they're the absolute best because I haven't used every brush out there, but out of all the brushes that I've ever used, those are my favorite brushes. Really nice brushes. So definitely, as you're getting better with your experience, if you haven't used them yet or if you don't have any, I do recommend Princeton brushes. Let me see. Oh, I've only tried those a couple of times, Tina. It's been a while. I do remember those were good. Those were good paint brushes. Have you ever used Princeton? Question, so you can kind of compare if you know the difference. So Angie, it's just a matter of practice, just like with everything else. You just keep at it. There's almost no possible way for your brain to just adapt. And everybody's ability to do so is different. But the more you do it, the more confident you become, the more relaxed you become, and then the more confident you become, and the more relaxed you become. So it's kind of a cycle. But you just got to keep at it. If you stop, like many people do because they're struggling, so lots of people don't want to struggle, right? They become frustrated. They think it should be easy. It's about pushing through all that difficulty and just giving yourself room to grow. Like with anything else. Excuse me, but most definitely, it's about having that patience with yourself. Okay. Yeah, those Princeton brushes are amazing. Most definitely, Tina. You might have to look into those. But all right, everybody, just a nice little short last minute session for me to kind of say hello to all of you. So hello to you that have jumped on. Maybe some of you that are going to be watching the recorded session of this. If you have any questions for me about any part of painting, now I don't know everything. There's no possible way to know every single thing about painting, but if you have a question, you can message it to me as well. You can put it in the comments of this video, and I'll be more than happy to jump on and answer you, okay? I'll be more than happy to reply to you with an answer, whether by messenger or here in the comments. Okay, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. You guys have an awesome rest of the day. Okay, bye-bye.